I would say one other thing to consider too is you probably don't have a strong opposition also to anything. Like maybe you're like, oh, I'm not really sure about that thing, but I support X, Y, and Z. But I feel like it'd be really tricky to be like, I'm totally against, we'll just say like that really famous quote, which is, you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? Like you can't have a really strong opposition to that if you're part of the WEF. And then I heard other people talk about it and they say that that was totally misconstrued. So I wanted to get your opinion of that and like the breakdown of that article, because to me, that's terrifying. And I don't think I'd be happy if the state owned everything because someone's owning it. So if it's not me, then who's owning it?
Yeah, I think it's concerning. This was an article that came out in 2016 by the WEF, and it was by a politician from Europe who actually wrote it, but it was a WEF affiliated article. And it talks about the vision for 2030. And it's this very dystopian vision where you like rent everything you're sharing, and there's artificial intelligence, you don't have privacy. And I don't know how you could misconstrue what they wrote. Maybe I could see people making an argument that, well, that's not the Great Reset per se. So if you read COVID-19, the Great Reset, they're not promoting that article. But the WEF put that out, and it is very dystopian. So the argument that I make in my book is, well, let's see what the WEF has said in the past, because they write lots of articles on things. And they
Mhm.
talk about you'll own nothing and be happy. They're very concerned about quote unquote disinformation and who gets to define that. They're concerned about overpopulation. There are things that they're talking about that from one lens could be construed as very dangerous. But I also understand that some people with rose-colored glasses who maybe have a positive intent, they might say, "Wow, look how convenient this society is," and they're blind to how the masses might construe this. Of like, wait a second, you're going to take away my privacy and take away private property. So my sense is that they've backtracked and they're trying to cover up the negative aspects of it. But it's a concern to me that an organization that would promote "you will own nothing and be happy" has a vision for society, and we didn't hire these people, we didn't elect them, and they have a lot of influence.
Yeah, I think it's great that technology has offered us a lot more transparency when it comes to Davos and the convention that goes on every year there. And now I guess you can just buy a ticket and show up. Met someone recently that we were at a speaking event, and then they said they were there for a psychedelic. I don't know. Would it be like a conference? So it was like a non-affiliated event with the WF and Davos. I guess they didn't officially do anything with psychedelics, but there were certain like offshoots of that happening, so you can just go there. But I think it's great that we can kind of see these crazy things out in sunlight and be like, they're actually saying what? And some people are kind of arguing that these conversations should be private because like they need to be able to work out these big problems that like us simple folk don't understand. I don't know that I agree with that perspective because I think who's in charge of telling me what I'm capable of understanding and deconstructing, and especially if it applies to my life and my liberty and like how my society is going to run, right? Like whether or not I can leave my house, if I'm going to be eating bugs, whatever that looks like, because that's another thing, right, that I see a lot is all had this protein packed cockroach burger and it's just as much protein that has just as much availability as a cow, and I'm like, nonsense. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm not on board with, so I like the transparency that that's providing. I don't know what your opinion is, if we lay people should be privy to these conversations or if it should be in private because we're just misconstruing everything.
I mean, I tend to be in favor of transparency, but if they are a private organization, I guess technically they can do what they want. But if they're going to do things in secret and yet have a plan for the world, they should expect backlash because, like we're talking about, not everyone is agreeing with their vision. And if they have a vision for all of us, we should know about it. And in spite of the fact that we have transparency through technology now, there still are a lot of people who are not aware of this stuff because the media and social media, to a degree, they do a good job of hiding things and just not talking about certain topics. So if you watch just the mainstream media, you wouldn't even know that certain things are happening. So all of this stuff to try to decode what's happening in the world, I found it requires being active and not being passive. You have to seek things out on your own and ask questions and not just accept what you're told. So critical thinking is important, even if technology provides information.
Yeah, this video will definitely have a little tag on the bottom for sure on YouTube. I almost guarantee it. It'll be some like disclaimer of sorts. So I guess let's get into the Great Reset. So what is their vision? I know that it's probably a lot of content out there, but I guess just to kind of give the summary to someone who doesn't really know.
Sure. It is about, as they say in COVID-19, the Great Reset, the return of big government, centralizing power, more regulation. It also relates to a cultural shift. So they talk a lot about like justice and equity, equality, fairness, and they're also very concerned about climate. So whatever needs to be done to save humanity because climate is going to kill us. That's the kind of mentality that this is an existential threat. And then also technology. So Klaus Schwab has written a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, where we're moving to a new technological era. Human beings and machines might merge, where humans could be enhanced by artificial intelligence. So things of that nature, which in some ways people might say are going to be beneficial, in other ways are potentially dystopian. And then there's this metaphysical component. To me, this is the big omission of the Great Reset, especially considering my prior work talking about the need for a spiritual revolution, that we are inherently spiritual beings. And there's a lot of scientific evidence to show that's true. That was not my belief system previously, but part of my own paradigm shift was recognizing, wow, there's a lot of evidence for this. And I've been arguing we need to have a paradigm shift in this area. And then I read the Great Reset, and that's not what they're talking about at all. In in fact, Yuval Noah Harari, who's an advisor to the World Economic Forum, he wrote the book *Sapiens*. Very smart guy, but he has certain views that people are concerned about, and he's said things to the effect of the idea that there is a soul or spirit that's over. That basically science has transcended that superstitious notion. And I think we need to be moving in the opposite direction. So all of these things to me, on the surface, some people might say, well, they just want to help humanity. I'm concerned about everything I just said.
I am too, and I was really disappointed when I saw Yuval and a lot of his clips that were going viral because I mean, he's a great author and he's got some good books, but some of his ideas are just totally encroach on any type of sovereignty that I truly believe in. A lot of it is kind of mommy and daddy government are supposed to be caretaking for you and that you can't make decisions on your own, whether it's how you're going to eat, medical procedures, medications.